Can you guess where this was taken? Perhaps Austria? Germany? The roaring hills of Scotland? It may be closer than you think, given if you are on a little island called the United Kingdom. This is Llanberis, a village town in Wales just at the foot of Snowdonia National Park, Wales' largest national park, and a beauty to behold. I haven't been to too many parks in my lifetime, but looking at this beauty makes me think that the United Kingdom really puts their faith in their parks. From visiting there and many other parks, I truly think there is something special about these parks, and I intend to discover what that is. In my 7 weeks here in the United Kingdom, I've discovered parks inland from London, on the outskirts, on the coast of England, and even in Wales. I've come across dozens of parks, each with different shapes and sizes. Let's slow down a little bit. Now, if we were to talk about all the parks here in the UK, let alone London, we'd be here for a long time and probably win the longest documentary in film history. I'd rather not edit that. So let's narrow it down just a little bit, shall we? I got a question for you. Is Hampstead Heath an actual park? That's right, it isn't, because it's actually a heath.
Bruh, it's actually a park.
What?
I know, they say it's a heath, but it still counts as a park.
What?
You see all those green little open spaces? They all count as parks.
But that's cheating. Look at those small spaces. They can't be parks.
Yeah, they still count as parks. But they still are. I mean, they have different names, but they're all open spaces for the public, so that kind of makes them all parks. I mean, some you have to pay for, because I know that there's gardens, and you have to, live there.
My colleague is quite right. Hampstead Heath, or better known as The Heath, is still indeed 100% a park. Even though it's not a royal park like Regent's or Hyde Park, which I'll mention later, it's still quite a popular park in London. Heath is just located northwest of Islington and is categorized as an ancient park for being hundreds of years old. In the times I've visited, I've entered through the both left and right sides. The first time was through the right side, where you'll find some beautiful ponds. And on this side, it seems to be more popular with people, where they're running, hiking, biking, or even having a dip in one of the local bathing ponds. I even found a cute shack on my way through the park, but I just realized it was just a loo. The Heath, unlike other parks, is like a mini forest inside, with many branching paths, and even though you are in central London, it seems like a whole other world in there to get lost in. It reminds me a bit of the parks at home. Now, the most interesting thing about the Heath is the fact that it's not even a royal park. Even though it was a royal ground in the 1760s, where royal families had owned the entire space while living in a little place called Kenwood House. Just the north tip of the Heath is the Kenwood House, where it's open to the public. It's mostly just an art gallery, but you can see the beautiful architecture and the furniture inside. Already in awe, I feel like the British really treat their green spaces with love. Or, well, maybe in different ways. As you enter the left side of the park, it's a lot more open as well, with dense forest bits. But here, you'll see many people running outside, enjoying this sweltering heat wave that will not bugger off. And look, they've even brought their dogs, despite this park's pleas. Out of the many parks I visited, however, this was the most unique and reminded me of the dense foresty parks I'm used to back in California. Let's take a stroll down through Camden Town, through the beautiful city landscapes of Primrose Hill, and visit Regent's Park. Regent's Park is only one of the 8 royal parks in London, but probably the most well known. This park is famous for its long trails of trees that outline the main paths and Queen Mary's Garden, But those aren't the only gardens. In one of the entrances down south, there's a sculpture garden filled with a bunch of unique sculptures and statues. In these royal parks, they are a lot more tidy, much more popular, and you can see the modernity in them. Regent's Park, though it may not have all the forest adventures you may want like Hampstead Heath, it's got giant open fields to play tennis, football, rugby, or even cricket. If you even fancy practicing cricket, they have cricket cages. As for what brings the people over here, it's the same as before: biking, sports, hiking, or just laying in the grass and getting sunburned from this overexposed star that continues to cough at London. Regent's Park has water spaces too, except none are for swimming, but more uniquely, they do have boating rides for that people that can paddle along the ponds. If none of those fancy you can always fork over 30 pounds and visit the zoo. Move just a little more south and veer westward and you'll hit Hyde Park. You have cafes at the Dell, the Lido, the Hyde Park Tennis Center, refreshment points at Serpentine Roads. Yeah. Hyde Park, from my experience, has the most to do. Summer concerts are held there, boat rides on Serpentine Lake, ping pong, ice cream trucks, biking, or again, the long walks in the open spaces with the deadly sun judging your every move. I sometimes wonder while I'm here if there are more birds in this park than humans, because they seem to have taken over the place. Pigeons, ducks, swans, chickadees, and these really annoying birds I can't name. If I were to guess, there are a lot more activities and amenities here that make this place more children friendly. They even have a fountain where kids can play in. If you're out and things to do in London, there's always something going on at Hyde Park. But why do so many people flock to these parks, and why do I find them so special? Alright, for our next interview with the locals is, oh no, she said no. Said there's nothing interesting about the parks. Parks are shit. Alright, I remember now. I've realized something. From about everyone I've talked to about parks, I've gotten responses like, I'm not the person to talk to. Tourists are better to talk to. The parks here are shit. Or even, I don't know what's interesting about these parks. I know these people are nice, and they mean well, but I think after so many failed attempts to get interviews, they're trying to tell us something. And I think I know exactly what that is. I cannot stress enough how beautiful, magnificent, and a real pleasure these parks are to experience. I still think there's something special, but to me, the tourist. You see where I'm getting at? I've gotten so caught up with being a tourist here in the United Kingdom that I've forgotten what I think about my beautiful parks back home. The locals here are simply used to the parks, and they know they're pretty and all, but have nothing to say because they're just having lunch there, passing through, work there, or exercise through there. Look at it this way, I've never been to Golden Gate Park. That might be crazy for some people, and I've lived here for 20 years. And to be honest, I've never been interested in it. I'm no nature or park buff, but with a quick drive, I could just go to Golden Gate Park and experience the whole thing, whether I like it or not. Here in London, I'm only here temporarily, and who knows when I'll be back. I believe it's my excitement as a tourist, being somewhere new, that has gotten me so interested in these parks. And I still think these parks are beautiful and worth visiting, but if you've seen something 100 times, it won't be as exciting as the first. Despite this epiphany I've had, these parks are not complete without its people, whether they're tourists, people from around the world, or someone just across the street walking their dog. If that's all still too boring, you could always pay and go to the zoo.